Okay, good morning, Year 3. The Pebble in My Pocket. It's our story, and look, there's a subtitle we were hiding from before, A History of Our Earth. I'm going to read the first part of this story so that you can do today's English lesson where you're trying to find out what some of the words mean using an online dictionary. So, to get into it, because there are some tricky words in this book, it's a beautiful book, but there are some new words we're learning. And it will help us a lot as we start doing our science and geography lessons as well on the story of our Earth, if we know some of the words from this book. Okay, there's our title page. There's our pebble. And here we go. Right, I always have to try and get round so I can see the words and show you at the same time. The pebble in my pocket is round and smooth and brown. I found it on the ground. Where did you come from, Pebble? And here's where we see the beginning of the pebble's life. There. Under the volcano, melted rock shifts like thick treacle. The molten rock is 9 times hotter than boiling water. The rocks covering the earth are cold and hard. They form a thin crust like a rind, about 30 kilometers thick beneath the continents, but only 5 kilometers thick under the oceans. The deeper you go down inside the crust, the hotter it gets. Below the crust lies mantle rock, so hot it can start creeping and shifting and melting. So our little pebble right now is part of this melted rock deep inside the earth, underneath its crust, the rocky layer on the outside. Imagine living in an earth that looked like that all over. The ground shakes, gas hisses from the top of the volcano. Columns of ash, purple ash, shoot into the sky. Glowing fragments hurl through the air. Then the lava comes. Molten rock spilling red hot down the volcano's sides and flowing out over the land. The lava cools. It hardens, forming a thick, wrinkled skin of new rock. Everything is still. The seas swarm with living things. But nothing is living on this land. It is 480 million years ago. So, there are living things on the earth at this time, but there's nothing alive on the land, only in the sea. And you can see why nothing can really live on land that looks like this everywhere. Not even much plants yet. Right, and our rock? Well, it's not even a little rock on its own right now. It's just cool to be part of this rocky, bumpy ground. Let's read more. Slowly, very slowly, the surface of the earth begins rising. The rock made from the lava begins to tilt up, slowly, very slowly. All the rocks underneath go up. Everything that happens to be on this piece of earth is rising. This is how mountains are made. Huge slabs of rock tilt and twist. The land folds and buckles and crumples. 2 great land masses, like giant plates, are colliding, pushing against each other, making mountains. And every winter, snow falls. Every summer, the snow melts, and the sun shines on the rocks. Heat makes the rocks expand. Cold makes them shrink. They expand and they shrink. Expand and shrink, and then they crack. Water seeps into the cracks on the rocks. On cold nights, the water freezes. Clear crystals of ice push inside the cracks, wedging pieces of rock slowly apart. Rain falls on the mountains and rundowns the rocks. Little leafless plants begin to grow in damp places because now some things are living on the land. I'm looking hard for the tiny leafless plants, the first living things on the land. It is 395 million years ago. And with all this rocky ground cracking, expanding, shrinking, cracking again, letting the ice in, cracking more, we might get some bits of rock, some pebbles out of it, including the pebble that the girl found at the start, all those hundreds of millions of years later. All right then, more on our pebble story in part 2, but right now, I'd like you to go to lesson 3 for the English lesson and try and find out what some of these words mean that you might not be so familiar with, and the worksheet will explain how to do it. See you later. Goodbye.